Should I pay any attention to someone who gives an interview on Fox, where they lie every day? Behar asked, her voice dripping with contempt. The question hung in the air like a challenge. It was a direct attack on Johnson's credibility, a dismissal of his opinion based on the platform he had chosen to express it. But it was also a question that the panel would spend the next several minutes debating, and it was a question that would ignite a firestorm of controversy that would spread far beyond the walls of that studio. You could literally feel the temperature in the room drop as Behar's words landed. The audience, which had been booing just moments earlier, suddenly went dead silent, waiting to see how the rest of the panel would respond to such a scathing indictment of one of the most beloved figures in entertainment history. The silence was not empty, it was filled with anticipation, with judgment, with the weight of a cultural moment that was unfolding in real time. Every person in that room knew they were witnessing something significant, something that would be clipped, shared, memed, and debated for days to come. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every micro-expression, every nervous glance, every subtle shift in posture as the panel prepared to wade into waters that were far deeper than the typical morning show banter about celebrity gossip or lifestyle tips. Ana Navarro, who had been listening quietly, decided to offer a different perspective. Everybody loves The Rock, and The Rock wants everybody to love him, she said. It was a simple observation, but it cut to the heart of the matter. Johnson had built his entire career on being universally likable. He was the guy who could appeal to Democrats and Republicans alike. He was the guy who could be friends with everyone. And now, by trying to stay neutral, he had made everyone angry. Navarro went on to explain that she understood Johnson's position because she herself had faced similar criticism. She talked about how difficult it is to navigate the modern political landscape when you have a platform that reaches millions of people. Every word you say gets dissected, every opinion you express gets weaponized, and every attempt at nuance gets flattened into a soundbite that makes you look like a coward or a traitor, depending on who's doing the interpreting. Navarro's voice carried the weight of personal experience. She had been called a rhino, a traitor to her party, a sellout, and a hero, sometimes all in the same week. She knew what it felt like to be caught between competing loyalties, to have your every public statement parsed for hidden meanings, to be held accountable for opinions you never actually expressed. Her defense of Johnson was not just political analysis, it was empathy born from lived experience. She recognized in him a fellow traveler on a lonely road, someone trying to navigate an increasingly polarized world without losing his sense of self. Sunny Hostin, never one to shy away from a political debate, jumped in with her own take. I do think we're living in a time where we have someone running for president that is an existential threat to democracy, she said, referring to Donald Trump. Now is the time, if you have a platform, you must be active, you must speak out. Her voice was passionate, almost pleading. She couldn't understand how anyone with the kind of megaphone that Johnson possesses could choose to remain silent when the stakes were so incredibly high. She talked about her own experiences as a woman of color, as a mother, as someone who has seen firsthand how policy decisions can devastate communities. For her, neutrality wasn't just a personal choice, it was a moral failure. She argued that remaining silent in the face of injustice is its own form of complicity, and that Johnson, by refusing to take a stand, was essentially giving permission to his fans to remain complacent. Hostin's words were not just political, they were deeply personal. She spoke of growing up in the South Bronx, of watching her mother struggle to make ends meet, of seeing the systemic inequities that plague American society. For her, politics was not an abstract game played by wealthy elites in Washington. It was life and death. It was access to healthcare, to quality education, to safe neighborhoods. It was the difference between a child going to college or going to jail. And in that context, neutrality was not just cowardice, it was a form of violence. She couldn't understand how someone like Johnson, who had risen from poverty and hardship to become one of the most powerful people in the world, could turn his back on the very communities that had lifted him up. She saw his silence as a betrayal, a rejection of the responsibility that comes with privilege and platform. Alyssa Farah Griffin, the conservative voice at the table, offered a more measured perspective. She questioned whether Johnson's endorsement actually mattered. I'm not sure The Rock holds sway over either Republicans or Democrats who twiddle their thumbs in anticipation of his endorsement, she said. But even she acknowledged the importance of Johnson's role in encouraging people to vote. She pointed out that while endorsements from celebrities might not change minds, they can absolutely drive turnout, especially among younger voters who may not be as engaged with traditional political messaging. She also made an interesting point about the evolution of celebrity political engagement, noting that in previous decades, stars like Frank Sinatra and Ronald Reagan had used their platforms in ways that seem almost quaint compared to the hyper-partisan environment we live in today. She suggested that Johnson might simply be a product of a different era, a time when you could be universally loved without having to declare allegiance to one tribe or another. Griffin's analysis was informed by her own journey through the political landscape. She had worked in the Trump administration, had seen the machinery of government up close, and had ultimately broken with her former boss over the events of January 6th. Her perspective was nuanced, shaped by the understanding that politics is rarely as simple as the cable news talking heads make it seem. She recognized that Johnson was navigating a minefield, and she respected his desire to avoid unnecessary explosions. But she also understood the frustration of those who felt that his silence was a missed opportunity, a moment when a powerful voice could have made a difference. But it was Joy Behar who was the most vocal in her criticism. She couldn't understand why Johnson, a man with such a massive platform, would refuse to use it to speak out against Donald Trump. "If you're going to say who you vote for, you're going to cause division," Behar said. Everything is division, and yet he just said, "I didn't like to cause division." So what is he doing? He's staying neutral while the country is burning. Her frustration was palpable. She saw Johnson's neutrality as cowardice, a refusal to take a stand when it mattered most. She went on to talk about her own career, how she had faced backlash for her outspoken political views, and how she had never once regretted speaking her truth, even when it cost her friendships or professional opportunities. She argued that true leadership requires courage, and that Johnson, by choosing the safe path, was failing the very people who had made him the star he is today. Behar's words were incendiary, but they were also rooted in a deep sense of conviction. She had spent her entire career being unapologetically liberal, and she had paid the price for it. She had been called every name in the book, had been the target of boycotts and protests, had been told to shut up and stick to comedy. But she had never backed down. And she couldn't understand why someone with the platform and power of Dwayne Johnson would choose to stay silent when the stakes were so high. For her, silence was not neutrality, it was complicity. It was a choice, and it was the wrong choice. But here's the thing about Dwayne Johnson that many people forget. He is not just an actor. He is not just a wrestler. He is a brand. A billion-dollar brand. And he has spent years building that brand on the foundation of being universally loved. He doesn't take sides because taking sides costs money. It costs fans. It costs endorsements. It costs the very thing that has made him one of the most successful entertainers in history. Every movie deal, every endorsement contract, every merchandise sale depends on him remaining that guy that everyone can get behind. The moment he picks a side, he alienates half his audience. And in an industry as cutthroat as Hollywood, that's a risk he simply cannot afford to take. Think about it, Johnson has partnerships with companies that span the entire political spectrum. He has deals with Under Armour, with Ford, with Apple, with major studios that produce films for global audiences. If he becomes too political, he risks losing those partnerships. He risks becoming toxic to half the country. And in a world where cancel culture is real and unforgiving, that is a very real and very present danger. The entertainment industry is not a meritocracy, it is a marketplace, and in that marketplace, controversy is a liability. Johnson's brand is built on positivity, on hard work, on the idea that anyone can achieve their dreams if they just try hard enough. That brand does not lend itself to partisan warfare. It does not thrive in an environment of anger and division. It thrives in the middle, in the vast space where most Americans actually live, where they go to work, raise their families, and try to get by. Johnson's neutrality is not a moral failing, it is a business strategy. And it has been incredibly successful. The discussion continued, with the panel debating the role of celebrities in politics. Should they endorse candidates? Should they stay out of it? Is it their responsibility to use their platforms for political change? The answers were as varied as the hosts themselves. But one thing was clear: the audience was not happy with The Rock. They had come to the studio expecting to see their hero. Instead, they saw someone who they felt had let them down. And the boos that had echoed through the studio were just the beginning. Outside the studio, on social media, the reaction was even more intense. Twitter exploded with hashtags like "The Rock cancelled" and "Joy Behar was right." Facebook groups dedicated to Johnson's fans were flooded with debates that turned into arguments that turned into full-blown feuds. People who had grown up watching him in the WWE, people who had followed his career from wrestling to Hollywood, people who had bought his merchandise and watched his movies and cheered for him in the ring, they were all wrestling with a complicated mix of disappointment, anger, and confusion. For many, Johnson had been a constant in their lives, a figure of stability and positivity in a world that seemed increasingly chaotic. And now, that figure had been revealed to be something else, a man who, like everyone else, was trying to navigate impossible choices. The disappointment was not just about politics, it was about the loss of a certain kind of innocence, the realization that even the most beloved figures are not above the fray. Behar then asked the audience a direct question: should celebrities endorse public figures or keep their politics to themselves? Some in the audience could be heard responding no, suggesting that they agreed with The Rock's decision to stay out of politics. But the boos had already spoken. The audience had made their feelings clear. It was a moment of genuine tension, the kind that doesn't happen often on daytime television. You could feel the discomfort in the room, the sense that something had shifted. This wasn't just a disagreement about politics. This was a reckoning about what we expect from our celebrities, about whether we have the right to demand that they share our values. And as the segment continued, the conversation grew even more heated, with the hosts interrupting each other, talking over each other, and occasionally throwing their hands up in frustration. It was messy, it was raw, and it was absolutely riveting television. The segment concluded with the panel agreeing to disagree. But the damage had been done. The clip of the audience booing Dwayne Johnson had already gone viral. Social media was flooded with reactions, with fans and critics alike weighing in on whether The Rock had made the right decision. Some praised him for staying true to his principles. Others criticized him for not taking a stand. But one thing was clear: the controversy wasn't going away anytime soon. In fact, it was just getting started. Within hours, the story had been picked up by every major entertainment outlet. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, TMZ, Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, they all ran stories about the confrontation. Late-night talk show hosts made jokes about it. Political commentators used it as a case study in celebrity activism. And Dwayne Johnson himself, ever the master of public relations, released a carefully worded statement that neither apologized for his stance nor doubled down on it. He simply reiterated his love for his fans and his desire to bring people together, not tear them apart. To truly understand the significance of this moment, we must step back and consider the broader context in which it occurred. The United States in 2026 is a country deeply fractured along political lines. The chasm between left and right has grown so wide that it sometimes seems unbridgeable. The media landscape has fragmented into echo chambers where people only consume information that confirms their existing beliefs. Trust in institutions has plummeted, and conspiracy theories that once lived on the fringes of the internet now have a prominent place in mainstream discourse. In this environment, the role of public figures has become increasingly fraught. Celebrities, athletes, and entertainers are no longer just sources of escapism. They are expected to be moral leaders, to use their platforms to advocate for social justice, to take sides in the culture wars. Those who refuse to do so are often accused of cowardice or complicity. Those who do take sides risk alienating a significant portion of their fan base. It is a no-win situation, and Dwayne Johnson's experience is a case study in the impossible choices that public figures face. The evolution of celebrity political engagement is a fascinating subject in its own right. In the early days of Hollywood, stars were expected to stay out of politics. Studios enforced strict morality clauses and discouraged actors from expressing controversial opinions. The studio system was built on the idea that stars were fantasies, not real people, and that their political views would shatter the illusion. But as the studio system crumbled and actors gained more control over their careers, the boundaries began to blur. In the 1960s and 70s, figures like Jane Fonda and Harry Belafonte used their platforms to advocate for civil rights and oppose the Vietnam War. They faced intense backlash, but they also paved the way for a new kind of celebrity activism. In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan, a former actor, became president, blurring the lines between entertainment and politics in ways that had never been seen before. In the 1990s and 2000s, celebrities like George Clooney, Angelina Jolie, and Bono became advocates for humanitarian causes, using their fame to draw attention to issues like genocide, poverty, and climate change. And in the Trump era, celebrity activism reached new heights, with figures like Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, and LeBron James becoming increasingly vocal about their political views. But with that vocalization came a new level of scrutiny and backlash. Suddenly, every tweet was dissected, every Instagram post analyzed for hidden political meaning. The price of fame had never been higher. Dwayne Johnson's career trajectory is a study in strategic ambiguity. He rose to fame as a professional wrestler, a world where characters are larger than life and political allegiances are often part of the storyline. In the WWE, Johnson played both hero and villain, mastering the art of captivating an audience regardless of the role. When he transitioned to Hollywood, he brought that same versatility with him. He starred in action films, comedies, and family movies, appealing to a broad cross-section of the population. He became one of the highest-paid actors in the world, not just because of his talent, but because of his universal appeal. He was the guy your dad liked, your little brother idolized, and your grandmother found charming. He was a unifier in an age of division, a figure who could bring people together. But that unity came at a cost. It required him to stay silent on the issues that divided people. It required him to be everything to everyone, which ultimately meant being nothing to anyone. And when he finally decided to break his silence, even in a small way, the reaction was swift and brutal. The psychological dynamics at play in this confrontation are worth exploring. Joy Behar's anger was not just about Johnson's neutrality, it was about the frustration of feeling unheard. For decades, liberals have felt that the media landscape is tilted against them, that Fox News and other conservative outlets dominate the airwaves with a distorted view of reality. Behar's question about whether anyone should pay attention to someone who appears on Fox was not just about Johnson, it was about the broader struggle over truth and credibility. In her mind, Fox News is not a legitimate news organization, it is a propaganda machine that spreads lies and misinformation. And by appearing on that network, Johnson was lending his credibility to an institution that she believes is actively harming the country. But Johnson's perspective was different. He saw his appearance on Fox as a way to reach a broad audience, to share his message of positivity and unity with people who might not otherwise hear it. He believed that by engaging with all media outlets, regardless of their political leanings, he could transcend the divisions that plague the country. It was a noble goal, but it was also a naive one. In today's media environment, you cannot sit on the fence. The fence has been torn down, and you are forced to choose a side. The role of the audience in this drama cannot be overstated. The audience at The View is not a passive group of observers, they are active participants in the show's dynamic. Their applause, their boos, their laughter, and their silence all shape the conversation. When they booed Johnson, they were not just expressing disappointment, they were exercising their power as consumers of media. They were sending a message that neutrality is no longer acceptable, that silence is a statement, and that they expect their heroes to share their values. The boos were a warning to other celebrities who might be tempted to stay on the sidelines. They were a declaration that the era of apolitical celebrity is over. But they were also a reflection of the audience's own frustration. In a world where everything feels out of control, where the political landscape is shifting beneath our feet, we look to celebrities for guidance. We want them to tell us what to think, how to feel, who to vote for. And when they refuse, we feel betrayed. The audience's reaction was not just about Johnson, it was about their own sense of powerlessness. The media coverage of the incident was equally revealing. Conservative outlets framed Johnson as a victim of liberal intolerance, a man who was attacked simply for trying to stay out of politics. Liberal outlets framed him as a coward, a man who refused to take a stand when it mattered most. Both sides claimed him as their own, and both sides were disappointed when he refused to play their game. The coverage was a microcosm of the broader media landscape, where every event is filtered through a partisan lens and objectivity is a lost art. But amidst the noise, there were moments of genuine insight. Some commentators pointed out that Johnson's situation was emblematic of the impossible choices facing public figures in the modern era. Others noted that the expectation that celebrities should be political leaders is a relatively recent phenomenon, and that it might be worth questioning whether that expectation is fair or healthy. Still others observed that Johnson's brand of positivity and unity is precisely what the country needs, and that his refusal to take sides might be a form of leadership in its own right. The business implications of Johnson's neutrality are also worth exploring. In Hollywood, the bottom line is everything. Studios invest hundreds of millions of dollars in films, and they need those films to appeal to a broad audience. If a star becomes too polarizing, they become a liability. Johnson's career is built on his ability to open movies globally. His films have grossed billions of dollars, and much of that success is due to his universal appeal. If he were to become a partisan figure, he would risk losing a significant portion of his audience. His films might still perform well in liberal markets, but they would struggle in conservative ones. The math is simple: staying neutral is good for business. It is also good for his brand. Johnson has carefully cultivated an image of positivity, hard work, and perseverance. He is the guy who wakes up at 4 a.m. to work out, who thanks his fans at every opportunity, who never speaks ill of anyone. That image is his greatest asset, and he is not about to jeopardize it for a political endorsement. But there is a tension here that is difficult to resolve. By staying neutral, Johnson risks being seen as inauthentic, as someone who cares more about his bank account than about the issues that matter. And in an era of authenticity, that is a dangerous position to be in. The question of celebrity responsibility is not a new one, but it has taken on new urgency in the age of social media. In the past, celebrities could stay out of politics without facing significant backlash. Today, silence is interpreted as a statement, and that statement is often judged harshly. The rise of social media has democratized celebrity, making stars more accessible than ever before. But it has also made them more accountable. Every tweet, every post, every comment is scrutinized, and the consequences can be swift and severe. Celebrities are now expected to be activists, to use their platforms to advocate for change, to be on the right side of history. Those who fail to meet these expectations are often cancelled, their careers destroyed by the very people who once adored them. It is a high-stakes game, and not everyone is willing to play. Johnson's decision to stay neutral is a refusal to play that game. It is a declaration that he is not a politician, that he does not want to be a political leader, and that his primary responsibility is to entertain, not to advocate. Whether that is a defensible position is a matter of debate, but it is a position that he has staked out with remarkable consistency. The historical context of celebrity political engagement is also important. In the 1950s, Hollywood stars were expected to be apolitical, and those who strayed from that expectation often faced severe consequences. During the McCarthy era, actors and directors were blacklisted for their political views, their careers destroyed by accusations of communism. The lesson was clear: stay out of politics or risk losing everything. In the 1960s, that began to change. The civil rights movement and the Vietnam War galvanized a generation of activists, and many celebrities joined the cause. They used their fame to draw attention to injustice, to raise money for causes, and to mobilize public opinion. But they also faced backlash. Some were accused of being unpatriotic, of betraying their country, of being part of a liberal conspiracy. The tension between celebrity and politics has been a constant theme throughout American history, and it shows no signs of abating. The moral dimension of Johnson's neutrality is perhaps the most challenging aspect to parse. On one hand, there is a strong argument that those with power have a responsibility to use it for good. Johnson has a platform that reaches millions of people. He could use that platform to advocate for causes he believes in, to inspire his fans to get involved, to make a difference in the world. By staying silent, he is arguably squandering that opportunity. On the other hand, there is a strong argument that celebrities should not be expected to be political leaders. They are entertainers, not politicians. They have no special expertise in public policy, and their opinions are often no more informed than anyone else's. Expecting them to take a stand on complex issues is unfair, and it distracts from the work that actually matters. Both arguments have merit, and neither is easy to dismiss. The truth is that there is no right answer. Each celebrity must make their own choice, and each choice comes with consequences. The broader cultural implications of this incident are profound. We are living through a period of intense polarization, where political allegiance has become a core part of identity. People define themselves by their political views, and they judge others by theirs. In this environment, neutrality is not just a choice, it is a statement. It is a refusal to participate in the tribal warfare that has come to define American politics. That refusal can be seen as courageous or cowardly, depending on your perspective. For some, it is a sign of wisdom, a recognition that the issues are too complex for easy answers. For others, it is a sign of privilege, a luxury that only those who are not directly affected by political decisions can afford. The divide reflects a deeper truth about American society: we are no longer a nation that can agree on basic facts. We live in different realities, consume different media, and have different values. The bonds that once held us together have frayed, and it is not clear whether they can be repaired. The reaction to Johnson's neutrality also reveals something about the nature of fandom in the modern era. Fans no longer see celebrities as distant figures to be admired from afar. They see them as friends, as confidants, as extensions of their own identity. When a celebrity takes a political stance, it feels personal. It feels like a betrayal or a validation of the fan's own beliefs. This parasocial relationship is a hallmark of the social media age, and it has transformed the nature of celebrity. Stars are no longer just entertainers, they are companions, therapists, and moral guides. The expectations placed on them are enormous, and the disappointment when they fail to meet those expectations is equally enormous. Johnson's fans felt betrayed because they had invested so much of themselves in his image. They had made him a part of their lives, and they expected him to reflect their values. When he refused, they felt rejected. The media's role in amplifying this controversy is also worth examining. The View is a talk show, and talk shows thrive on conflict. The producers know that heated debates generate ratings, that controversy drives engagement, that conflict is good for business. The segment was designed to be provocative, to push the panel to its limits, to create viral moments that would be shared across the internet. It succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. The clip of the audience booing Johnson was viewed millions of times, and it generated countless articles, tweets, and videos. The media ecosystem feeds on outrage, and this incident provided an endless supply. But there is a cost to this constant amplification of conflict. It deepens our divisions, makes compromise seem impossible, and leaves us feeling exhausted and hopeless. The media profits from our polarization, but we are the ones who pay the price. The personal toll on Johnson should not be underestimated. He is a human being, with feelings and vulnerabilities, just like everyone else. The boos from the audience, the criticism from the panel, the endless social media attacks, all of it takes a toll. Johnson has built his career on being loved, on being admired, on being the guy everyone wants to be around. To be booed, to be rejected, to be told that he has let people down, that is a painful experience, regardless of how thick his skin might be. His carefully worded statement, released after the incident, was a masterclass in damage control. He neither apologized nor doubled down. He simply reiterated his love for his fans and his desire to bring people together. It was a calculated response, designed to appease both sides without taking a definitive stance. But it also revealed the vulnerability beneath the tough exterior. Johnson is not just a brand, he is a person, and that person was hurt by the backlash. Whether he will change his approach going forward remains to be seen, but it is likely that this experience has left a mark. the broader implications for the entertainment industry are significant. Other celebrities will watch this incident closely and draw their own conclusions. Some will decide that the risks of political engagement are too high, that it is better to stay silent and protect their brands. Others will decide that the risks of silence are even higher, that neutrality is no longer an option, and that they must take a stand, regardless of the consequences. The industry is at a crossroads, and the path forward is unclear. What is clear is that the old rules no longer apply. The era of apolitical celebrity is over, and we are all navigating uncharted waters. The philosophical questions raised by this incident are equally profound. What is the purpose of celebrity? Is it to entertain, to inspire, or to lead? Should we expect our entertainers to be moral guides, or should we look elsewhere for leadership? These are questions that have no easy answers, and they are questions that each of us must answer for ourselves. There is a long tradition of political thought on this subject, from Plato's philosopher kings to Hannah Arendt's warnings about the dangers of celebrity culture. We would do well to engage with that tradition, to think deeply about what we expect from our public figures and why. The choices we make in this regard will shape the culture for generations to come. The international perspective is also worth considering. Dwayne Johnson is not just an American star, he is a global phenomenon. His films are watched in every country, and his image is recognized on every continent. The expectations placed on him are not just American, they are global. In many parts of the world, American politics are seen as chaotic and dangerous, and American celebrities are viewed with a mixture of fascination and suspicion. Johnson's neutrality has global implications. It signals to the world that even the most beloved American figures are unwilling to take a stand, that the polarization of American politics has reached such a fever pitch that even the most successful people are afraid to speak their minds. That is a troubling message, and it reinforces the perception of America as a country in decline, unable to resolve its internal conflicts. The economic dimension of this controversy is also significant. Johnson is one of the highest paid actors in the world, and his earning power is directly tied to his universal appeal. If he were to become a polarizing figure, his earning potential would be significantly reduced. He would lose endorsements, movie deals, and merchandise sales. The cost of taking a stand is measured not just in goodwill, but in dollars and cents. Johnson has made a calculation that staying neutral is the best financial decision, and he is probably right. But there is a cost to that calculation as well. By prioritizing his financial interests, he risks being seen as inauthentic, as someone who cares more about money than about principle. That perception can be just as damaging to a brand as a controversial political stance. It is a delicate balancing act, and it is not clear whether Johnson has found the right equilibrium. The psychological impact on Johnson's fans is another angle worth exploring. Many of his fans are young people who look up to him as a role model. They have grown up watching his movies, wearing his merchandise, and emulating his work ethic. To see him booed, to see him criticized, to see him reduced to a political symbol, that is a confusing experience for young people who are still forming their own identities. It teaches them that even the most successful people cannot escape the polarization of American politics, that neutrality is not a safe haven, that they will be forced to choose sides whether they want to or not. That is a sobering lesson, and it is one that will shape their political development for years to come. The incident at The View was not just a moment of entertainment, it was a moment of socialization, a moment when young people learned something about the world they are inheriting. The legal implications of celebrity political engagement are also worth noting. The Federal Election Commission has regulations governing political endorsements, and celebrities who endorse candidates must comply with those regulations. There are also laws against defamation and libel, which can be triggered by false statements about political figures. Celebrities who engage in political activism must be careful not to cross legal lines, and they often have teams of lawyers advising them on what they can and cannot say. This adds another layer of complexity to an already fraught decision. Johnson's decision to stay neutral is not just a personal choice, it is a legal calculation as well. By staying out of politics, he avoids the legal risks that come with political engagement. That is a smart move, but it is also a revealing one. It suggests that the risks of political engagement are so high that even someone as powerful as Johnson is unwilling to take them. The ethical considerations are perhaps the most difficult to resolve. Is it ethical for someone with Johnson's platform to remain silent on issues of social justice? Is it ethical for him to prioritize his financial interests over his moral obligations? These are questions that cannot be answered definitively. They depend on one's values, one's worldview, one's understanding of the role of celebrities in society. There are strong arguments on both sides, and reasonable people can disagree. What is clear is that Johnson's choice has been subjected to intense scrutiny, and that scrutiny reflects the broader ethical debates that are taking place in American society. We are wrestling with questions about responsibility, privilege, and power, and we are looking to our celebrities for guidance. They are not always equipped to provide that guidance, but we expect it anyway. The narrative arc of this incident is worth tracing. It began with a seemingly innocuous appearance on Fox News, where Johnson discussed his desire to unite the country. It escalated when that appearance was discussed on The View, leading to Behar's provocative question and the audience's boos. It reached a fever pitch when the clip went viral, sparking debates across the political spectrum. And it continues to unfold as Johnson and his team manage the fallout. The incident is a classic example of how a single moment can become a cultural flashpoint, how a seemingly small decision can have enormous consequences. It is a reminder that in the age of social media, everything is amplified, everything is scrutinized, and nothing is private. What did you think about this incredible confrontation? Was Joy Behar right to attack Dwayne Johnson for his political neutrality? Or was she being unfair to a man who was simply trying to avoid division? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss another explosive moment from the world of entertainment. This is the kind of television that reminds us why we watch, why we care, and why sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to take sides. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.